Good morning, children. Today we are going to see the continuation of the lesson which we started in the last class, Animal Kingdom. So as usual, before going into the class, let us learn some interesting fact about the animal, likewise in the form of quiz. So I am going to give you the fact about that animal. So you keep guessing the answer. I'll give you the answer also. So let us move to the first one. That is, you have to identify like who am I. The first fact here is I have my heart in my head. Who is it? Can you guess? Have you heard about any fact like this before? This animal has its heart in its head. It is that this animal, can you recognize what is it? It is shrimp. So what is shrimp? Shrimp is also a kind of a prawn which generally grows in seawater, but prawns are generally grown in fresh water. So this shrimp has its heart in its head. Second one, I have 4 noses. Who it is? What is this? This is called slug, which means it is a kind of a leech. You can see them in rainy season, black color, no, you will say no, tapeworm, like in the form of tapeworm, not tapeworm exactly, attapuchi nama solluvom illaya. So that is, we call it as leeches, and this particular variety we call it as slug. So you can see it is having 4 noses here. Next one, my eye is bigger than my brain. Who it is? I think you can guess by seeing the picture. What bird is this? Ostrich. And this is also one of the largest bird in the animal kingdom. So this ostrich has its eye which is bigger than its brain. So was it interesting? Yes, now let's recap what all we discussed in the last class. So in the last class we saw what is meant by classification. It is the method of arranging organisms into groups on the basis of similarities and differences is called classification. And also we saw what is meant by taxonomy. It is a science of classification which makes the study of wide variety of organisms easier. So we have we saw like we have more than 1.5 million species in this world. So we need some classification to study. So that science of classification we call it as taxonomy. And then we saw the taxonomic hierarchy, that is, we saw like species, genus, family, order, class, phylum and kingdom. So we discussed everything one by one. Now today in today's class we are going to see what is the basis for classification. So we saw the hierarchy and what is meant by classification, everything. So there should be some criteria before classifying, yes or no? So likewise, you're coming to school for admission at the age of for example, say at the age of 13. So 13 is the age where you go to the class 9th standard. So that is the criteria. So if you want to go to the admission to 9th standard, if you want to get admission in 9th standard, you should fulfill some criteria. That is, you have this age and you have this kind of knowledge, and all this should be what to say, all this should be satisfied, only then you will be given admission. So that is some criteria, that is the basis we call it as. In the same way, we have some basis for this classification of animals also. We have level of organization and symmetry, followed by germ layers, and finally coelom. So let us discuss one by one in detail. First we have level of organization. So level of organization means the animals are grouped as unicellular or multicellular. Based on this they will be categorized, that is based on the cell, tissue, organ and organ system. So first they will check the cell. So whether it is multicellular, they will be coming under one category. If it is unicellular or bicellular, they will be put under one category. And that number of tissues, layer of tissues and organ, their organ system and what kind of organism, that is we call it as level of organization. And next we have is symmetry. Symmetry means what? When you cut them, it should give an equal half. So here symmetry, it is a plane of arrangement of the body parts. So there are two types of symmetry. One is radial symmetry, the other one is the bilateral symmetry. So radial symmetry means, let us discuss, through the axis. If you cut through any of the axis, you should get the what? Through the central axis. If you cut means you have to get equal halves. Radial means through the central axis. Symmetry means you have to get the equal halves. Bilateral symmetry means when you cut through the center, you have to get two equal halves. That is, bi means two. Let us discuss one by one now. First, radial symmetry. The body parts are arranged around the central axis. If you cut the animal through the central axis in any direction, it can be divided into similar halves. So, for example, we have hydra, jellyfish and starfishes. So, you can see the picture of hydra alone here. So it is like they have the planes in between. If you cut, for for clear picture, you can see this starfish. This starfish, if you cut through the central axis from in any direction, if you cut, you will be getting an equal half. Then that we call it as an radial symmetry. And next we have is the bilateral symmetry. The body parts are along the central axis, that is in between. Through the central axis the body parts are present. If you cut the animal through the central axis, then you get two identical halves. For example, we have the same, you can see here frog also. If you imagine cutting a frog, or if you imagine this is an housefly, or if you imagine the human body, if you cut through the center, you will get two equal halves. And bilateral symmetry, tortoise also, if you see here, means you will be getting two equal halves. So radial symmetry means in any direction through the central axis, if you cut, you will be getting equal halves, identical halves. Bilateral symmetry means if you're getting two equal halves, then we call it as bilateral symmetry when you cut through the central axis. Is it clear, children? Now next we are going to germ layers. So germ layers are formed during the development of embryo. When the baby, that is the just born tissues are growing up, the embryos start to develop. As the germ layers forms, the embryos start to develop. So these layers give rise to different organs as the embryo becomes an adult. So like we have two types of germ layers. One is diploblastic and the next one is triploblastic. Diploblastic, so DI, so DI means it is two, it means it is two. So if you have only ectoderm, outer endoderm and inner endoderm, only two things are present. So if you see here, so inner endoderm and outer ectoderm alone it is present, so it has two germ layers, then all those animals will be coming under a category called diploblastic. But when you see in this next picture, it is having three layers along with this mesoderm. This yellow color part is there, no, that we call it as an mesoderm, which is present in between the outer ectoderm and the inner endoderm. So it is having three layers, then we call it as triploblastic. And the animals which is having three germ layers, then we will be categorizing under them this category, that is triploblastic. So germ layers we have two. One is diploblastic, they will be having only outer ectoderm and inner endoderm, and triploblastic they will be having only three layers along with the mesoderm which is present in between the ectoderm and endoderm. Next one is coelom. What is this coelom? It is a fluid filled body cavity which is present in the center, that is it will be lying in between the intestinal canal and the body wall. We call it as a coelom. So it is separating the digestive tract from the body wall. A true body cavity or coelom is that located within the mesoderm. Based on the nature of coelom, animals are divided into three groups. We have three types of groups under this. First one is acoelom, that is acoelomates. A means absent. A means absent. They do not have a body cavity. For example, flatworm. So here if you see, they won't be having any body cavity. That means they don't have this coelom. First you can see they are having only ectoderm and then mesoderm and endoderm, and their digestive cavity alone it is present. They don't have this coelom, that is the coelom is absent, that is acoelomates. Next one is pseudocoelom have a false body cavity, that is their coelom will be lying inside the external body wall. So you can see here external body wall, in between here it is present here, that is we call it as pseudocoelom. Example you can say is roundworm. If you cut and see the roundworms, you can see all these parts present along with this pseudocoelom. Next one is coelom or eucoelomates, which is having a true coelom, that is the true body cavity is present in them, that is earthworm is example for them. You can see here ectoderm is present, mesoderm is present, and then endoderm, and here you are having a white color semicircle like this, which we call it as coelom. So in between this two parts, two coeloms, you are having a cut space, yes or no? That cut space between these two coeloms we call it as mesentery. Between that which is dividing the coeloms into two, we call it as the mesentery. Is it clear? We have three types of coelom. One is acoelom, where coelom is absent. Pseudocoelom, that is false coelom is there. Coeloms means where coelom is actually present. So we can get clarified with this picture. So first one is acoelom, where the coelom is absent. Pseudocoelom means it is present in it is lying inside the external body wall, that is pseudocoelom, which is present in roundworms. And if you see this last one, coeloms or eucoeloms, they have this coelom on the either side. In between you have a space cutting the coelom, that is the body cavity, that we call it as a mesentery. Is it clear, children? And next we are going to see the further classification, that is animal kingdom is further divided into two groups based on the presence or absence of notochord. So as vertebrates or invertebrates, that is based on the presence of backbone. So if they have backbone, then they will be coming under a category vertebrate. If they don't have backbone, then they will be coming under a category called invertebrate. So now listen, animals which do not possess notochord are called as invertebrates or non-chordates. Animals which possess notochords or backbones are called as chordates. Next we are moving on to the topic binomial nomenclature. So binomial means what? Bi means two, nomial means name, nomenclature means naming. So here Carolus Linnaeus introduced this method of naming the animals with two names, which is we call it as binomial nomenclature. So he had some rules, that is the first name is called the genus. So you can see the example, I have given two example, man and cockroach. So man, the scientific name of man is Homo sapiens. The first part of the name is called as genus. So here Homo is genus, and the first letter of genus is denoted in the capital, and the second one is species, and it is always denoted in the small letter. Is it clear, children? So here another two rule is given. The entire part of the name must be written in italics only. The genus name is always written first, and the genus name must be capitalized. Is it clear, children? And the scientific name of cockroach is what? Periplaneta americana. Is it clear, children? So binomial nomenclature, you have to follow the rules. First the genus name should be coming, it should be starting with the capital letter, and then followed by species name, it should be starting with the small letter, and both entire part of the name should be written in italics. So in today's class we have seen the basis of classification. On what basis? We saw level of organization, and then symmetry. In symmetry we saw radial symmetry and bilateral symmetry. And then in germ layers we saw diploblastic and triploblastic animals. In coeloms we saw acoelom, pseudocoelom and coeloms. And then finally we saw binomial nomenclature. In the next class let us move into the topic invertebrates. Thank you.